Hi, everybody. Welcome to the digital download. So I'm just letting Brandon in. Welcome, and this is where we talk about what we've seen in the week, things that are serious, things that are funny, and we talk about those, and we welcome your participation. We'd love to hear about what you've seen, what you've heard, what's made you smile, what you've seen in the world of digital, and share that as well. And we'd love to talk to you about that. So I don't know what's happened to Lenwood, but I'm just checking my channels on the left-hand side. He seems to have gone, but I'm sure he'll come back.
He's off talking to Mike in a private chat.
Maybe he is. Maybe he is. Yes. So if we do some introductions, and I'm sure that it will all come into place. You know, the show must go on. Do you want to start, Eric, and then just introduce yourself?
Certainly. My name's Eric Doyle. I'm the co-founder of Crux, and I work with some other people that you might have seen on here, Nick Rayburn, Matthew Pybus, and Kevin Milne. And we are proud partners of the mothership, which is DLA Ignite.
Fantastic. Adam, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, I'm Adam Gray. I'm co-founder with Tim at DLA Ignite, and we're proud that we've got such a fantastic universe, solar system of people around us, such as Eric, Brandon, Mike, et al.
Brandon, do you want to introduce yourself next?
Who was that? Was that me or Mike?
Sorry, Brandon. Yes, sorry, you. Yeah.
Hey, everybody. I'm Brandon Lamb, founder of Funnel Amplified, and a very proud, excited partner with DLA Ignite as well.
Thank you. And Mike.
Hey everybody, Mike here, mobile from my mom's house. So there will be an interruption when she brings me coffee. I'm getting more coffee, Eric. But
is it true to say you are the Mike Garrison, RKA, the sheriff of social?
Yeah, I am, but no hat today, sadly.
Definitely RKA though, rarely known as.
Rarely known as.
Hey Mike,
and give your love to your mum from us as well. You know, please.
Yeah,
hey, Mike,
I was
Mike,
actually talking about doing this from my mum's house in 2 weeks, but she talked me out of
it. Hey, Mike.
You could do it from your mum's garage, couldn't you, Tim?
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
Yes, unlikely. Yes.
That's not very nice, Adam. That's not very nice.
So I'm actually going to ask Eric to kick things off.
Yeah.
Because we got a bit of tech
to
deal with, and I'm just going to sit here worrying that the tech's not going to work.
You got sweaty palms.
It's not going to work. So I want to get it over and done with. So
yeah, just 1 second, just putting this in context. So this is all about things that we've noticed on a range of digital channels. And one of the things I noticed this week was, just putting it in a little bit of context. A couple of years ago, I read this, Rebel Ideas by Matthew Said, and it was, I'll be honest, I don't mind being...
Be honest, Eric.
I'll be honest, I was driving, I had about a 12-mile drive from the office to home back then when I was in the corporate world, and I got to about the middle of this audiobook, and I pulled over in a lay-by, and I had tears in my eyes. This book ruined me and caused me to think seriously differently about the world of business, and really resonated with me with the amount of mistakes or learning opportunities, as people call them. I've made some howling learning opportunities in my life about some mistakes that I was making as a leader. And I from this book, I went back and I made certain fixes in my life. And I see that book and that audiobook and what Matthew put down in Rebel Ideas is something that fundamentally changed the way I think about not just business, but I'm kind of thinking about my life as well. So it set me off on a new course. And part of that new journey was I came across another dude's book, this guy, Tim Hughes, but I don't want to big him up too much. And this was all part of a big change in my life. So I follow Matthew avidly on all of his social media channels. And I came across this little interview piece that he did. I think there's a credit at the end. So if you let it play all the way through, Tim, it's just a couple of minutes. Matthew is talking about a significant rot in most industries and most businesses where meetings And hierarchical structure destroys most meetings because no one really says what they're thinking. What they're really trying to do is agree with the hippo. And I love the term hippo, the highest paid person's opinion. And you like that? You like that? So most people are just trying to curry favor with the hippo, the highest paid person's opinion. And Matthew tells us about the pitfalls of this horrible thing in most businesses that you will find, and businesses that have fixed this or are trying to fix it are in a better cultural place. Now, I think if you hit
run VT
and see what happens. Now you'll need to put the audio back up.
CEO or the team
I'll just take that
in a very hierarchical organization where the CEO or the team leader has discretion over pay and promotion, is that people don't say what they think. They say what they think the leader wants to hear. That's fine if the leader knows everything there is to know. But when it's a difficult, complex decision, in other words, the ones that confer a competitive advantage on a business, the leader needs to hear the different perspectives to make a better judgment. And we know from, for what it's worth, from randomized control trial evidence, Lee Thompson at Northwestern University, meetings are a catastrophe, the vast majority of them. Absolute disaster. Because people are not sharing information. They're basically playing a political game to curry favor with the boss. So the short answer is you need what's called psychological safety. All that means is an environment where everyone feels they can be candid and they can say what they really think, and hypotheses are tested. When Google did a big data analysis of its most successful software development teams, psychological safety was the biggest predictor of success, because it means you're getting that interplay of ideas that's so important.
So let's just home in on that second. Psychological safety being one of the biggest indicators of success. Just as a bit of a recommendation, I'm clearly not commercially incentivized, but Matthew pulls that through in this book, Rebel Ideas, and it's the power of diverse thinking. Not diverse as in diverse, race or origins. Cognitive diversity. Who's bringing those ideas to the table that are going to fundamentally improve what we do? And do we have a culture that allows us to say that in proper psychological safety, where I'm able to say to Mr. or Mrs. CEO, I'm really sorry, but I think you've got that wrong. I'm really sorry, but I think you've got that wrong. But also the reciprocal aspect of that, where that challenge doesn't evoke who are you to tell me that, but actually evokes, I'm really interested in what you're saying. Can you tell me more? Mm-hmm. That's beautiful. So just thought I'd share that, because that little movie and his energy and passion and the reference points, I really thought was a little bit of beautiful digital learning this week for me.
Fantastic.
That's really good.
What does the team think?
Have you guys has anyone seen this book?
5 Voices, not another one for the list. Damn it.
Yeah. Look, I just bought Eric the book Eric was talking about. Now you're going to get me to buy another one?
Yeah. So five.
What do you think I am, a library? Sorry, Brandon.
Oh, you're good. No, 5 Voices. It's written by 2 of my friends, Jeremy Kubicek and Steve Cochran. Steve Cochran is outside of London with you all. You know what I loved about this book is, it's based on Myers-Briggs personality profile.
Oh, yeah.
But then the 5 voices are and I think, Eric, you called it like the psychological profile within a meeting. And it goes away from, CEO or the hippo, right? The highest paid person comes in and starts talking. It's more focused on the different voices that people have, like the roles that they play. So you got people that are the pioneers, which tend to be more of the leaders in a business, tend to be, not always. And then you got people that are more of a nurturing voice, or more of a creative voice, or more of the guardian voice. And the last one is a connector voice. And really allowing the different voices to speak at the right time. Because really, when a pioneer comes in and starts speaking, everyone tends to shut down because they're casting vision and passion and excitement. The nurturers and the guardians feel like they can't speak. So, like, I know for me in empowering my teams, I've always been aware of my, my personality, and I like to be the last person to speak in a meeting, because if I start speaking, everyone else gets quieted down. But I highly recommend this. They've got another one called the 5 Gears that corresponds, but I think it's right there, Eric, with what you're saying. That psychological difference of voices can make or break a meeting and a company and the entire culture.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
So Brandon, sorry, 5 Voices. Who are the authors again?
Yeah, Jeremy Kubicek and Steve Cochran.
But I remember the whole issue of diversity being completely missed by leaders. I remember once working with a leader, and I went into their office and I said, yeah, absolutely, Will, echo chambers and information. Yeah, totally, brilliant paragraphs on those echo chambers. How we're spending so much time just basically agreeing with each other about stuff which doesn't really matter, but it feels great. I remember once walking into this leader's office and saying, just giving them a bit of an update on this project. And on this project, we happened to have a couple of people that were born in the UK. We happened to have a young lady that was born in Africa, and we happened to have a person that had a Chinese heritage. And as I was chatting away, I could see that this person was getting really excited. And the CEO turned around at one point and he said, yeah, I get all that, but how good does this project look for us in front of our clients for diversity? Oh, man alive. Wow. Man alive.
Eric, so I bought the book. I also bought the Audible. So in advance, right? Well, and I really love that video. It's great. And I want to get away from personality and back into this psychological safety concept, because unfortunately using profiles and stuff like that is a high skill environment. It's a high skill thing. And usually stereotyping and stuff like that can backfire with psychological safety. A leader like Brandon, absolutely, right? You're in tune, you've done the work. But for the generalists out there, the big thing that I want to key on from a coaching perspective is this concept that people have got to be psychologically safe in a meeting. And I love that thing that William just shared, the information bubble and the echo chamber. Could you take that out? Because you've done so many meetings in the last year with leaders in business. Could you apply that concept of psychological safety and what we're talking about on the social selling thing, the information that just came out about what percentage of clients are online? How can leaders make psychological safety evident in boardrooms and in team meetings to be able to do the transformation?
My goodness, yeah, absolutely. And I project that information bubble. We can all do it. We can all take a reference point back to that board that we sat on, that group that we were a member of, where that whole hippo's opinion was, we were all just sitting there, just basically stroking an ego, waiting for this person to. I've done it. I'll admit, earlier on in my career, I would wait till the CEO or the MD spoke, and I would probably bend my thinking towards that. Latterly in my career, I became the person who actively, if I disagreed, was the active disagreeer. But there has to, echo, speaking to what Mike said, that whole environment piece of, right, okay, we're going to go for psychological safety, has to be well received. Has to be well received. If I'm going to try and create an environment as a leader where I need people to speak up, and in some cases criticize my behavior or what I'm doing or my plans or my great idea, I need to be as tuned into this as much as I'm asking everybody else to be, right? So if at that meeting,
isn't it wider than that though?
Go on then.
Isn't it wider than that? Because I get that the hippo, I love that expression. I get that the hippo is the person that you kind of doff your hat to and that. But I think Ken Robinson in his TED talk had a comment where he said the challenges that we're facing in the world require creativity to solve.
Correct.
And I think that's true not just of the global warming and things like that, but I think that it's issues in business, because the framework and the landscape has changed so enormously. So we need creative solutions to solve that. But the problem is, in both our businesses and our cultures, being wrong is stigmatized. Yes. So the worst thing that you can ever do is be wrong. Yeah. And he said that I'm not saying that being creative and being wrong are the same thing, But what I know is that if you are afraid to be wrong, you can never do anything creative. And I think that that's the next step on from that hippo idea, is the idea that I will lose my job if I make a mistake. Now, Tim and I, some years ago, were doing a learning session for a life sciences company.
Oh yes.
And the guy that was our sponsor there stood up and he said, I'm not saying that I want you all to do this, but so you know, I sent a tweet and I wiped €1 billion off the market capitalization of the company, and I wasn't fired for it.
Just to say, it was $1 billion. Yeah. Okay. They wiped off.
B.
B. Yes, it was $1 billion.
Now, the thing that was so shocking for us when he said that was not the fact that he admitted to it or the fact that he didn't get fired, was the fact that there was shock in everybody's faces that he had made a mistake and he wasn't penalized for it. And I think that the problem that we have in most businesses, and we see that with embedded behaviors around the stuff that impacts on us every day, around cold calling and email marketing and advertising and all of those things that we decry as being old school and not efficient and effective in the way that they were. The problem is that the business has stigmatized failure to the point where people are afraid to challenge these paradigms. So, our cold calling doesn't work anymore. I pick up the phone, I dial 100 times, I get 10 voicemails. 90% of the time I don't get anything at all. I get 10 voicemails, I leave 10 messages, nobody ever phones me back. So the forward-looking leader or the forward-looking methodology within a business would say, then don't do that because it doesn't work. Even if you get one conversation with somebody, it's still a 99% failure rate. So find something which is more effective. But people are afraid to do that because they go back into their safe place, and their safe place is doing the stuff that used to work 20 years ago. They do it in the hope that it'll work in 20 years' time. And it actually doesn't work today. It hasn't worked for the last 5 years, not the way that it used to work before that.
Right.
And I think that the challenge is a bigger one than just deferring to the senior person or challenging their thinking. It's challenging the whole framework inside which businesses move forward, isn't it?
Yeah, that's Adam. That is absolutely right, and it's excuse me, I have the hiccups. It's why digital culture. I got the hiccups when I was trying to fix my computer. Okay, it's why digital culture is so performing. It's so important. Okay, so. Sorry, that might be a distraction. I'll keep this short.
No, not at all.
No, it's good. It's good.
You're actually exemplifying exactly what we're talking about, right?
So much of this actually dovetails with what I wanted to talk about today too. So this is actually I'm glad that I stepped into this conversation about culture. Because, so many organizations, they look at the amazing growth that companies coming out of Silicon Valley have, and they say, wow, if we can just implement the same technological infrastructures, then we'll be able to grow just as fast. And what they don't focus on is what those companies are doing on the culture side. It's not just about the beautiful. It's not just about the beautiful offices and all the amenities and things that they put in there trying to keep people in the office. It's also about creating an innovation culture which requires that psychological safety. It's like the building blocks of building in an innovative culture is psychological safety is like a fundamental building block. You have to build that C-level down so that it permeates meetings, permeates the culture. Now we can get cross-functional collaboration going. You can start to get into innovation. So there's a fundamental misunderstanding about like the nature of digital transformation. Most people think digital transformation is really, they're confusing it with IT transformation. I put in a CRM system, I put in marketing automation, I'm working with the cloud now. That is not digital transformation. That's IT transformation.
Absolutely right.
Digital transformation is holistic. It's actually a triangle. It's IT transformation, workforce transformation, your digital culture, and digital strategy. And what we do sits in the digital strategy category. Social selling is digital strategy. Now, digital marketing requires some strategy to do, but what most companies have done is replace the kind of thoughtfulness behind digital marketing with the IT part of it, which is the automation part. We're just gonna put this CRM system, marketing automation. We're gonna pump out some emails and whatever sticks, man, we're going with it. We just gotta, just keep pumping more into that system, right? And so they're not thinking about effectiveness, because they've lost the whole concept of the strategy. Why were we doing all of this to begin with? Because we're trying to connect with our customers and get them to engage. That doesn't work anymore. Most companies that implemented digital marketing strategies, digital marketing is like the first step in a digital transformation program. It really is an add-on just to get your business going in the right direction, so you got more sales coming in. But guess what? If that doesn't work anymore, now that first
I think you told me a story about when you were in corporate life, and your dog was ill.
Oh yeah.
And you asked to take some time off to sort out your dog, and your VP or whatever basically said to you, "I don't care about your dog."
Yeah, I don't want to hear anything else about you. It's an executive vice. I've reported to executive vice president, and she said to me, I never forget it. It's like in my mind, I'm sitting in her office, and I'm talking about the dog, and she says, I don't want to hear anything about your dog. I don't care about your dog. And what that said to me in that moment, and it's when I knew I needed to make a fundamental change, because I didn't want to be in business with people like this, is that this lady doesn't care about me, not one iota. The only thing she wants is what Linwood can think up creatively from a legal perspective, and that's it. She loved the position memo that I sent to Deloitte that went all the way to national office, and national office says, he's right, saved us $80 million. Okay, that she wanted that, but Linwood and concern about his dog and his personal issues, I don't want that. You cannot operate and expect to get talented people to come make your organization a success with that kind of approach. That's just
isn't the irony, though. Eric, what's your most successful post about?
My most interactive with post is the post about a little dog that passed away, or a little dog.
Yeah, exactly. So the irony is that the corporate view is, I don't want to hear more about your dog, and the human view is, I do want to hear about your dog. And I think that there's such a beautiful juxtaposition here. And I think that this is kind of like the binary element of businesses that will succeed in the future and businesses that won't. Businesses that will succeed are the ones that say, I want the shortest route between 2 points. The 2 points being my business and my prospects and customers. The shortest route is through my people. So Eric's got an audience, some of whom love him. You've got an audience, some of whom love you. I've got an audience, some of whom, well, actually, I probably haven't, but Tim's got an audience, some of whom love him. So we've all got audiences of people that are really close to us and really value our view and our stuff. And the shortest route from DLA Ignite to that prospect is through whoever they choose to like the most amongst us. And organizations that grasp that as a concept are the organizations that have a massive competitive advantage. Because, I want to hear about Tim's mum's garage collapsing and Mike's trip to the doctor with his son and your trip to Hershey World. That's what I want to hear about, because I forget which one of you it was that wrote something. I think it was Eric in his video that he launched today, where he said, every website says the same stuff. Every website
Yeah.
says, we're brilliant. No website ever says, yeah, we're like the third best, a little bit expensive, and you can't really rely on us. Nobody ever sells anything like that. So there's this commodity, and nowadays in the world, although any CRM vendor might argue with this, it actually doesn't matter what CRM package you buy. What matters is how you use it.
Oh, yeah.
And the route to success is through the relationship, so that you build the trust. Here's how you're going to revolutionize your business by installing it's Mike's mum. Hello, Mike's mum.
Hello, Mike.
Hi.
Yeah, lovely jumper.
I thought that was some kind of a metaphor. I wasn't looking at Mike's.
That's the best thing.
Get your mum on, Mike.
Fundamentally, the best thing that's ever happened on this show.
Did she just bring you some milk and cookies?
Espresso.
Nice.
Okay.
Espresso. What, a pint of espresso? Oh, buckle up. Buckle
I'll
up.
have a venti espresso, please.
Yeah. So can I just, I mean, my goodness, we got half an hour out of that little Matthew Said video. That's amazing, right? Can I just bottom that out? And this is a really crappy thing to ask you guys, right? Speaking to what Brandon, Mike, Lenwood, and Adam have all said, that whole piece about psychological safety and how we need to create it and all of that, how in many organizations, it's about the fear of making mistakes and all of that and the reciprocity that might occur from that. So Lenwood spoke about it needs to come from the top down. Mike spoke about the psychological safety and the beautiful book, 5 Voices from. How do we take the expectation being I need to cover up mistakes or not talk about them and permeate through an entire organization that the expectation here is that I will be not proud of, but vocal about mistakes, vocal about wrong decisions or wrong. How does that, we spoke about permeating that from the top. It's not that easy, right?
Yeah.
It's not that easy.
Yeah,
how do we do that?
So
Go ahead.
I'll tell this story. When I owned Design and we had about 130 employees, I had two things with it. One is a senior VP. I had given her veto rights over me in certain areas of the business because her personality was what I called at the time a maintainer. And I'm more of the pioneer. Like I'm always creating and moving in the future. But I knew for the safety of the business that I needed her to be able to control and make decisions in certain areas. So number one, I gave her veto power over certain areas. But in the name of that, she came to me one time and she said, Brandon, we have a problem. And I said, what's that? And she said, well, we've got 2 big revenue areas of our business. We have new business and we have retention. And the customer success team thinks you care more about new business than retention. And I went, what are you talking about? And she said, you physically walk into the sales room and check on sales about 6-7 times a day. And you come into the customer success area about twice a week. Your physical activity, not what you say, but actually what you do, speaks more to the team.
Wow. Oh, wow.
And it was this, this awareness. And so I think your question is, senior leaders have to have the courage to act the way that they want the business to be. I mean, that's culture, right?
And aware that they are, so have the courage to do it and aware of shortcomings or overactivity in particular areas.
Yeah. Leadership development is so important, right? They got to be self-awareness.
Isn't that the point? The reason you were able to get that, Brandon, is that you hired somebody that was prepared to challenge you. Yeah. And I think that's the mistake, isn't it? That when leaders hire people that just sit there and go, "Oh, yes, you're wonderful. I'm not worthy." Nothing ever changes.
That's the thing. It actually starts one step before that, which is that the leader has to have a mindset that I am not infallible. Right? I have blind spots and I need help from the people around me to see those blind spots so that I can continue to improve and be a better leader. The better leader you are, the more your whole organization can grow. The CEO is the cap. Okay. And if you've got a CEO in there that hires people, I want you to tell me, where I'm wrong. But then every day they're like, you tell them they're wrong, and they're like, you mother, I'm not gonna
come
like,
come to me, Lenwood. Come
yeah,
to me, Lenwood. I'm rubbing off on you.
You can't. I didn't actually say it though. I only mouthed it. You knew what I was talking about. Anyway,
Hey, Lenwood, I want to follow up on that because I think it's really important when you're looking at psychological safety at the CEO level to understand that there are different contexts we're working within. So you got your founder, private CEO who built a company. That's a different psychological safety context than a publicly traded company or a private company where a board hires a CEO, and it could be a rubber stamp or not.
Mm-hmm.
And then you've got nonprofits, right? And so I think when we're looking as an organization, if we're really looking at the future and how we can impact positively the most amount of people, we got to have this leadership thing. That's why this is so valuable. I thank you for bringing it up. Both Eric and Lenwood, your stuff's amazing. But we need to understand, how do we create an atmosphere of psychological safety for the CEO in the different contexts? And that's where, number one, we know how to get to the person, right? Everyone on this panel is able to, using our strategic social selling, to get the meeting, to get into relationship with the CEO. But we need to understand that bigger picture. And that's why I really love that you brought this up, Eric, and then you doubled down on it, Lenwood and Brandon. Do we understand how safety is perceived by that CEO, by that decision maker? Do we understand how the context of that safety impacts their ability to listen or not?
Yeah, that, Mike, I'm so glad that you made that point, because it's so important. And it's actually, there's a trend that people talk about in your area of focus, financial services. They talk about how companies are staying private longer. The benefit of staying private longer and being able to access capital for larger and larger organizations is the CEO does not become subject to the whims of the public market, where a tweet can drop the market cap by $1 billion. Like, they have more safety to make mistakes. And I have a friend from college who is nearly a billionaire. He's a co-founder of a company that built their business by perceiving that, right? They're a business development company, a lot like BlackRock. But the point is that companies being able to access greater and greater amounts of capital privately affords the CEO the ability to make mistakes, take risks for a longer period of time in the company's growth.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Fantastic.
Mm.
What a great discussion.
Yeah, it was brilliant, actually. I really enjoyed that. Really enjoyed that.
A lot of connections, right? A lot of things that you don't necessarily see as being part of the big picture. But that psychological safety, that is not only extremely important, it's like a building block. Like, you don't get psychological safety, the other stuff that you're doing, it's not going to work, because you've got
to. It's the foundation for coaching.
Yeah, it's just like the person who's like, we got to get more Black people in here because diversity, equity, inclusion is really important. We hire a DEI person. We got to get a face up there, and then they don't do anything. Right? They're like, that's what we did. That was our, and then they do the press release. But
good procedure, guys. High five.
But what they don't understand is that diversity of perspective, having someone in their organization or not someone, but many more people that have a different life experience, have a different perspective.
Cognitively diverse, yeah.
That adds to the ability of the organization to think creatively about products and services. You need those voices in the conversation to stimulate ideas. Innovation happens so quickly now. You must be a creative organization.
Yeah, not a body.
A learning organization.
Empowering a voice.
Yeah.
It's not having the body. Like diversity is, there's a lot of things to it, but once you bring in the diverse people, for God's sake, people use them.
Yeah.
Right.
Understand
Sure.
what that person is bringing, a different life experience, a different perspective. When you begin to hear it, your mind will open up and you'll be able to see your markets and your customers very differently. You'll be able to respond and have greater empathy when the person that you're speaking to in that other organization doesn't look like you. How can I connect with that person?
Can I get a fire emoji for Lenwood? I want a fire emoji in the chat.
Absolutely.
You know that
I mean, look at what I'm doing for DLA Ignite.
that leads on perfectly to what I was going to talk about. So earlier on this week, one of our network, Karina, messaged me saying, "What should I do about this?" So she'd done a post. She works in the beauty industry. So she's a store manager for a successful kind of like beauty and health treatment chain of stores. And in fact, she's more than a store manager, although she does have her home store, because often she goes and helps train other businesses around her region. And she posted a photo of her out with her team, because it was the end of the month and they'd had you.
Oh,
So
I saw that. It was
yeah,
fantastic.
you guys all commented on it.
Full of energy. It was fantastic.
Yeah, it was fantastic. And then when you read the comments, there's comments from decent people like us who say, "Fantastic, what a lovely team. You know, it's down to the great leadership, and you look like you're all having a great time, and what a fantastic way to round out the month," and that kind of thing. And then there were some comments, as you would expect. You know, they are a bunch of women and a couple of guys from the beauty industry. So they spend a lot of time making themselves look attractive because they've got to live the brand. So loads of comments like, "Yeah, you're quite hot. I quite like you." And some of this in the public domain, and some of this via private message. And her comment was, "How do I?" And she actually dealt with it really well. And she dealt with it on message really well to the people that had been like that. But she said, you know, she just has a yearning to be taken seriously. She runs a successful business. She runs her own P&L within the organization. She is a businesswoman in a very high pressured and area of commerce, which has come under a lot of
Super
pressure
competitive,
with kind of online and whatever, bricks and mortar retailer. So she one can only assume, because they're still trading, that she's doing a really good job doing it, and she wants to be applauded for that and taken seriously as a businesswoman, not as an object of beauty, and certainly not on a dating site, which lots of people seem to think that LinkedIn is. Now, the challenge for me is that I'm a middle-aged, middle-class, straight, white man. So I am as far away from being on the receiving end of prejudice as it's possible to be. And so I can sympathize, I can't empathize with people that have been the subject of kind of being judged by who they are, how they look, you know, where they work, how they, you know, all of that kind of stuff. But she just said, you know, could we call it out? Because it's shocking. And frankly, you know, people should, you know, we have a right to deserve better than that, don't we? When we start to post stuff. She said, you know, I want to go online. I want to engage with people that could become customers of mine, may be able to develop my career with these people, want to grow my own personal brand. Right. You know, she's married. She's not looking for dates. And actually, even if she is looking for dates, this ain't the place to do it.
Right.
It's LinkedIn being a safe environment again. It's having that psychological safe environment.
Absolutely.
I think it's a. So I think it's a.
Should we call it out?
I think it's appalling, and one of our colleagues has called it out. Vanessa has called it out a few times. I'm also very aware of my own. My wife Sarah started taking LinkedIn seriously towards the tail end of last year, and came to me and said, "Is this normal? Is this normal?" You know, from a male connection who's got a traceable link back to a serious organization, who's got a job title and all of that. Morning, did you sleep well? And I'm sitting there mortified, embarrassed by this, not just once or twice, a couple of times a week. These sort of weird weird, creepy things coming in. It's like, for goodness sake, mate. I mean, okay, this is a social networking place, and maybe that's how you grade networking. Maybe that's how you perform when you go to the shows and you're in the bars at night and all of that. But my goodness me, you're leaving a traceable link here, my friend.
But maybe what we're seeing here is also what's going on in the office. That's why there's no filter. It's like, oh, if I do it in the office, so I can do it on LinkedIn.
Well,
you know,
here's the thing. It's like I had a conversation with a prospective referral source, great guy, last week, and he was talking about some of the negative things he sees online. And I said, "What, you go to church? Are you telling me you've never seen somebody behave poorly at church?" And he goes, I go, unfortunately, people behave badly online because they also do it offline. Yes. Just to your greater point. And I think they should call it out. Like, perhaps the gracious way to do it is for Karina and other people that experience it to take a screenshot of whatever the comment is, private message it to the person and say, next time it goes out on LinkedIn and everyone will see you. This is your chance.
But I think the problem with that,
what do you think?
Is that what's happening to Eric's wife is that it's not the same person twice a week. It's different people twice a week. Yeah. So actually, you've got to send effectively the same message with a different screenshot to people. And what they want is to cast bread upon the water. If I send this message to 100 women, 1% of them will respond and will have a chat with me. And actually, I've made progress then. So I think calling it out and, maybe block out the names and say, this is the kind of thing that I'm being subjected to. But I think you're absolutely right, Leonard. It's like, people either get that it's okay to behave a particular way or it isn't. And if
not everyone that experiences that is going to have the bravery to do the post and the blackout and all of that. A lot of people will just get really upset by that and maybe withdraw from their activity.
Yeah, and I think that the challenge is that Karina is, I don't know her that well, but I suspect she's probably quite strong because of how she dealt with this. But, my news feed is better for having people like her in it that share interesting content, which is different from the normal kind of content that I might see from Tim or Brandon or Lenwood or whoever. So I value having that in there. And you're right, Eric. If people say, actually, I'm putting a different kind of content out there, which is enriching people's news feeds by being outside of what their normal band of stuff might be, I won't bother to post anymore because it's stimulating this response. Then this becomes a very dull site of corporate literature again, like it was a decade ago, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Totally.
I agree that Karina is probably quite strong from having had to deal with it, but she's been dealing with it for her whole life. She didn't just get attractive. Like, that didn't just happen. So she's been dealing with this offline, and now she's dealing with it online in a supposedly professional setting. And I think what can help her is actually people like us, the social ninjas. We actually can exercise a lot of power in calling that kind of behavior out because we know how to do it effectively, right? So I certainly...
Thanks, Vanessa.
I totally believe her too. Totally.
Yeah.
That's interesting. And sometimes I get these messages too. It's not only the ladies, guys, believe it or not.
Not
what?
me.
What? It's not once or twice a week, but I do get them.
Well, that's only the good-looking guys get them, Lenwood. Not the rest of us.
I know immediately.
I know you've experienced it too, guys.
When I get one of these and it's happening a bit regularly just now with these dodgy profiles with 2 connections. Hi, handsome. I know it's fake. I can just block it. It's not a real person.
Oh, that's not a real person?
It's not a real person.
It's usually, hi, handsome. Are you into cryptocurrency?
You want to buy some Bitcoin?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like,
you don't get how did you sleep last night?
Yeah. So what's so interesting is the cold callers aren't just corporations; they're also perverts and deviants.
Yeah.
It's a different topic, of course, because it's offensive in a different way. but they're doing the same thing that so many cold sellers are doing. They're I think, Adam, how'd you say it? They're spreading the breadcrumbs out wide. They're just, filling the inboxes with weak messages. And, I think that social media is just an amplified version of real life. And just as if you're in a networking event and all you do is talk about your brochure and yourself and how awesome you are, people are going to run away from you. And we see that in social media. I have 4 daughters, but 3 of them are all working, college age. And
I thought you meant like coal mines or.
What's that?
Sorry, no.
I missed it. Sorry. But we've been talking to them. My wife and I have been talking to them about dealing with inappropriate messages and actions probably since they were 12, 13 years old, and preparing them how to, one, expect it, unfortunately, because it's our culture. It's a real crappy thing that we have to tell our daughters to expect it. But in our culture, that's just unfortunately a reality. And then 2, having them, because they expect it, it doesn't catch them off guard. And then preparing them for how to handle it, the combination of to what extent do you ignore, and at what point do you stand up and say this isn't right? And unfortunately, a lot of times to create change, it has to be more public. It has to, unfortunately, there's got to be a little bit of embarrass somebody for doing something that they think they could do hidden, and bring it out into the light in order to affect behavior change.
I mean, it's interesting to get the audience reaction from it, because it's not, well, apart from Lenwood, I apart from someone telling me cryptocurrency, I've been on social media for 11 years and no one's ever approached me. So maybe I just have a face for radio. But the thing is that people do get this, and we need to come up with solutions to help people sort it. And anything that the audience can come up with, or you guys would be is useful.
Well, and a question I would have, a question I'd have for women too is, how do we approach? So I'm very aware of that, obviously, with 4 daughters. I'm happily married. I have 5 children. I'm not out trying to look for something. But because so many men are, I'm very aware when I'm working with customers or I'm working with prospects, I'm a very relational person. And I'm always aware, like, how do I do this in a way that I can be relational in me and not overstep or get put into a category? A couple of years ago, I had a younger woman. She was in her late 20s. And because I like to build culture and relationship, I said, hey, you want to go grab lunch with me? Thinking, let's go have lunch and do talk business and just get to know each other more, because we work in the same office together. And she backed up like this. She goes, and I went, you don't have to. I'm so sorry. And she goes, no, I don't do one-on-one meals with men. I'm like, okay, no problem. I said, well, maybe I can order and bring it in, and we can sit in the lunchroom and just talk. Like, I wanted a social way of getting to, know somebody I'm working with. But any feedback on how to do that better would help me a lot, because I hate being nervous about trying to be who I am.
But isn't it a dreadfully sad
there's a blog
indictment?
in that.
Yeah, it's a dreadfully sad indictment that you said to her in exactly the same way you would say to Tim if you worked in the office, do you want to go out and grab some lunch, just have a chat and get to know each other a bit? And she was scared of that, because presumably she had been on the receiving end of sleazy guys hitting on her for however many years. And I think that it's awful that we've got into this situation where actually I can't be friends with a woman in a work environment because of the fear that I'm going to be making a pass at her.
Yeah.
And that's exactly as Gary said, how sad. It's dreadful that has driven a wedge between, particularly because, as Lenwood said, you need diversity in the business. You need men and you need women in the business.
And psychologically safe.
And psychological
and if you can't have
safety.
women colleagues
Full circle
within the business, you're basically creating an organization and a culture and a way of thinking that only sells to 50% of the global population. And that must be a recipe for disaster, surely.
There's
Yeah.
a very I'll put the link to it in the post, but there's a very funny ad that circled back again from 2014. It was made by Snickers Australia. I'll put the link to it. It's beautiful, where there's a bunch of builders in Australia on a scaffold, and they're sort of hairy guys, and a very attractive young lady walks past, and one of them reaches over and goes, "Oi, you know what I'd like to see?" And she's like scared. A society in which the objectification of women makes way for gender-neutral interactions, free from assumptions and expectations. You go, girl.
There's a blog. There's a blog in that, Eric. There's a blog.
So I've been sitting on this comment because I know that Adam actually gets to talk about this on TV quite a lot.
Oh yeah.
And that's from Nick, which is linking people's social accounts to real world ID would help.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Discuss.
Well,
We've
that's
got
the
a
thing.
minute.
Is like, you know, when you look at it, that's the difference between offline and online social, right? Offline, you have to go and show up. Online, you can hide sometimes.
Yeah.
But on LinkedIn, as Eric was saying, on LinkedIn, the individuals that have been approaching Sarah, they're you know who they are.
Yeah. That's actually the issue. Is you can hide in real life just as easily, and this is a subject that has come up actually with corporations and confidentiality statements where people who get in trouble for this behavior are protected. Their females are asked to leave and executives stay. When I was working in corporate America, the president, I had a very attractive Russian blonde who was my executive assistant. And because of how attractive she was, I got lots of visits from people who weren't coming to see me, although they were coming to see me. You know what I'm saying? Like, and the president of the company would come for conversations with me, which would last about 5 minutes or whatever. And it seemed, oh, this is great. He's coming to see me. But then it was 15 or 20 minutes at her desk on his way into my office.
Ew.
Right. And he asked her out. And what position is she to be in? And he's married too, with kids. Goodness. Bottom line, she goes to HR with that problem. She's going to get a nice package and a confidentiality agreement. Corporate America can't treat it like that.
No, but I think Tim's point was more that, people need to link it to real IDs, and that cures this problem, but it causes a whole nother problem. You know, one of the fantastic things about social media is first of all, it's in quotes impartial. You know, it's uncensored and impartial. Now, that works within the bounds of acceptable human behavior. As soon as you link the ID on a social account to a person and they have to prove who they are, then all of a sudden they can't speak out against regimes. Not the regime in the UK or the regime in America, but the regime in some...
Myanmar.
Exactly. You know, what you want is people to be able to share information saying, this is what's happened. The soldiers have come into our village and they've massacred 20% of the population of the village. Or there's this corruption going on over here. And, you know, both in the UK and America, which are free nations, increasingly society is becoming polarized, and increasingly governments are putting in controls, often based on good intentions. But the problem then is that if you are disagreeing with the controls, you know, we saw what has happened previously when democracies have become dictatorships, where you've got a different view to me. My view is the view that the government or the ruling class subscribes to. Yours is different, therefore you will be penalized for that. And we need to be really careful that we don't go down this road, particularly because you could argue, and again, I'm playing devil's advocate here, you could argue that social media is the last bastion of free speech that there is, because all of the media channels are owned by somebody. Now, it's not necessarily deliberately biased reporting. But the reality of the situation is I have a view A, therefore everything that subscribes to my view I assume is truth. Everything that doesn't I assume is fake news. And that's why every newspaper has a very clear political bias, because the people that edit the news story say this news story isn't true because it doesn't subscribe to my worldview, and this one is because it does. So the problem that we have is that if you say you will be held accountable for this, then it solves the problem of sexism and abuse. Of course it does, but it causes the problem that there is no longer free speech. And it's a difficult situation.
Going back to the sexist comments, Vanessa's made a really great point here that actually, in many cases, she says that you may think that you know who they are, but actually the profiles are faceless, incomplete profiles with minimum details, and they'll be like 4 connections. And you know, the comment there at the end, which is they hide and they lurk, you know, is I'm going to have to go and wash my hands after I've
So they've got a couple profiles. They've got the one that they, you know, it's sort of like you know, in The Office, you know, it's the president of the company who's also a predator. So he's got his regular profile, and then he's got another profile. Or are they using intermediaries, which is also something that I've experienced.
Well, great discussion, guys. We've still got 4 minutes left.
We could actually do an entire digital download on that topic and just go off and look at all. Yeah, it's a huge.
Would it be really great to get? It would be really great to get all the people that have been mentioned and get a very, you know, get a real debate about it.
Yeah.
Because I think it's something that needs to be cleared up, because I agree with you, Eric, which is that, well, I think everybody said it, is that if people are afraid to come on LinkedIn for anything, sexism, racism, spam, whatever, they won't come.
Yep.
And that kills the golden goose. You know, the LinkedIn is a great place for you to meet people and sell stuff. And I think it'd be really good to get everybody's heads together. We've got a platform, you know, with this.
Yeah.
And let's get people's heads together, and let's say, okay, are we going to call people out or are we not? Or are we going to, you know, what's the best way to do it? And let's get a debate going.
I agree.
Absolutely.
Let's form a movement.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because we need it. We need a movement of psychological safety for a variety of reasons.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go on, Mike.
The one thing that I wanted to add, and this is a much better conversation, but recruiting is changing, and I think that we have an opportunity here. You know, DLA and our friends in the marketplace, we have an opportunity to advance the concepts of what we've been talking about in this discussion into how the right companies can use psychological safety and being a, you know, decent human being as a tremendous recruiting tool online, and it's just not being discussed enough. It's really not. So I'm going to have some articles coming out this week, some things around that, because it pertains into the whole Merrill Lynch thing.
I thought you were going to mention Merrill Lynch, Mike.
I just did.
Oh,
we kind of went off. We kind of had actually the common theme for all of this today was psychological safety in relation to traditional working environments, and now moving more into a traditional working environment combined with a digital working environment.
Yeah,
it was all kind of linked to that, and I think that was quite beautiful what happened today.
It's
absolutely.
It's so relevant to everything that's going on, right? The change in the office and how people will work, where it's you know, some people will be remote, some people will be physically there, and also the new town square, which is social media, where we're meeting. Yeah, the hiccup's back. Where we're meeting, and we're meeting with our partners and our customers, you know, on social media. And it's, you know, social media, there's nothing that has ever been, I've said it before, no technology has ever had such an impact on the ability to have human to human connection. It is so globally culturally transformational. it's affecting every other. That's why I called it the third pillar of digital transformation. It's changing the way everything works, and so it just is logical that we would, to Brandon's point, because it amplifies what's going on in the real world, just like it has amplified so many other things. It's just so important. Exactly. After this, I'm going to do a number of different hiccup,
headstands
things.
Names.
I like drinking water from the other side of the cup as you bend down. That seems to work really well.
Hold your breath as long as you can.
Lenwood, Lenwood, I got to do 50 burpees.
50 burpees, yeah.
Kill. I'm going to try the water before I go to 50 burpees.
Just on this topic, and we come back into it at another time. I mean, there was that story of the, I believe it was a CNN reporter. No, it wasn't CNN. It was I can't remember. Maybe the New Yorker. No, this one was like the New Yorker and it was on a Zoom call.
Oh yeah, the guy,
right?
Tobin.
Yeah,
Tubin.
Yeah, Tubin, exactly.
It's a thing.
Yeah, and I don't know if we should say it on here, but got caught enjoying himself when supposedly everybody was taking a little break, but the Zoom meeting was still on, and
that's the problem.
I saw it. Is that real?
Meeting, he's got different windows open, and so
is that real though?
It was real.
Yeah,
he's back.
That happened, but he's back,
and
he's back on the air.
Yeah,
he's back on the air because he ascribes to the right stuff.
Yeah, but it's when we talk about digital transformation, is so if he had done that in the boardroom with live people, would that have been a problem? But doing it on Zoom,
God, I hope so.
with the camera on in front of the same exact audience, it ended up not becoming a problem. It was it was inappropriate. Probably shouldn't have done that. But if we're going to talk about unwanted advances, unwanted messages, inappropriate for a LinkedIn environment, he thought he was on mute. That's a good. Yeah. That was a good.
I mean,
yeah.
It's that's the thing, and we've talked about it before. It's the integration, of everything, right? You got to be an integrated person, because what happens is it's easier to keep the perversion out of the boardroom. Maybe I shouldn't call it perversion, but you know what I'm saying? Like the perverted behavior. Easier to keep it out of the boardroom because you're not going to just take it out. Well, anyway, you're not going to do that in a boardroom setting. But when you're sitting in the privacy of your home and you've got one window here and one window here, and this meeting is really boring, so I think I'll do some other activity.
I joined this session not expecting it to end up here. In a way, I'm kind of glad and a little bit bemused as to why we're here.
Just saying, that's gonna that's a prime example of how when the real person, who he is, right, at home, that's what he's doing at home. That's part of his hybrid work experience. Maybe that's why some companies want everybody back in the office, because they don't want to.
I've never seen someone fight hiccups just so bravely.
Can somebody Uber Eats Lenwood a bottle of water, please, and have it on his doorstep?
As soon as this is over, I'm gonna go. Take
us home, Tim. Land the plane.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in today. For me, it's been a great discussion, and I think we need to look at the psychological safety session, and we need to do something. And so, thanks to Eric.
Thank you,
Adam.
Thank you,
Lenwood, Michael, Brandon, Nick, Gary, Vanessa, Kevin, Will. Martin, Viren, I don't know if I've pronounced that right, Patrick, I think I've got everybody there.
There you go, Nick. This is where Foggy Friday ended up.
Yeah.
Exactly.
On that note, have a great weekend.
So, yes, and thanks everybody for tuning in. Thanks for the discussion. Thanks for the comments. Have a great weekend.
Have a great weekend, everyone.
Time for a shower.
Yeah. Lenwood, end it with a hiccup.
I did.